The date was October 2028, and the Germans decided to give the plucky manager of Dulwich Hamlet, Alex Ferguson, a call and offer them a role at Hanover 96. Hey guys, and welcome to Yocto Gaming Plays Football Manager 2022. We are currently on my playthrough on the road to greatness, and we are no longer managing Dulwich Hamlet, we are managing Hanover 96. A lot has changed since the last video, and I know I haven't been uploading as much as I used to. There's been an issue with my second monitor, and so I'm still trying to get that sorted, but in the meantime, what I can do is at least give you YouTube updates, and hopefully I will be a bit more frequent in my updates of this game. So, to take you guys back to where we were, in date game of October 2028, and Dulwich Hamlet, we were sitting around 10th to about 12th, I can't remember the exact position in League 2. The owners at Hanover 96 decided to give me a call and say, we want you to take over as manager. Now initially I was in two minds, but I had felt like I had taken Dulwich as far as I could. At least the passion for managing them was probably at an all-time low. I wasn't getting the funds, I didn't have any staff to rely on, and I felt like an age to it felt like an age to just try and progress even a little bit. Anyway, fast forward, and we currently are managing Hanover 96. So what I thought would be nice is if I run through a quick background of the club, history of the club, run through the players that I have, take you through what happened last season, because I did join in October 2028, so I did have roughly 3/4 of a season to play with. Take a look at the current league, and then finances, affiliates, and anything extra if I feel like it. So let's get on to club details. Hanover 96. Why the 96? I don't hear you ask. Because the club was founded in 1896. It currently sits in the city of Hanover, and thanks to Google, it's told me it's the third largest city in northern Germany. Now I hope that still is correct. The coloured kits that we have are a bit weird for a club. They're a bit contrasting. We have red and white, green and black, and then green and white. I kind of like the green and black kit the most, but yeah, it's what we're stuck with as there's no updates to the game. Stadium, we actually have a very good stadium, 49,000 seater, and it was built in here's the thing, it states it was built in 1954. When I did a quick Google, because I wanted to check, I suppose it tells you here, it was rebuilt in 2004. So in fact it's probably a better page to go off. It's currently owned by the club, which basically I think it means it's not privately owned by anybody. We have excellent training facilities and excellent youth facilities, and a good academy coaching. Now the interesting thing is, when you look at the history of the club, I'm going to look at the recent history first. In the last 10 years, we've been sitting in the second tier of the German Football League, the Bundesliga 2. And really, we haven't done well as a club. I mean, the game itself, when I first started in the save file, they finished 10th, 7th, highest place of 4th, 10th again, 8th, 7th. So it's sort of roughly around mid-table. And I took the role last October when they were sitting in the relegation position, and we were roughly, I think, 3 or 4 points off relegation. So within that 3/4 of the season, I managed to sign a few players in the January transfer window, formulate a style of play of just getting results, and we ended up finishing 10th. More on that later on in the video, because I'll run through the fixtures, wins and losses. So let's have a quick look at the club background. So founded in 1896, we're looking to build on our mid-table finish of Bundesliga 2 last year. As I've already said, we've got a fantastic stadium, fantastic training and youth facilities, but that's about where it ends. When we're looking at the honours and the history of the club, we've won the Bundesliga twice, but the last time was in 1954. So many decades ago. And the most recent major trophy would be the DFB Pokal, which I believe it's the sort of equivalent of the FA Cup in Germany. I could be wrong, but it seemed like the major cup, domestic cup in Germany. The last thing we won was the Bundesliga 2 title in 2002. But since then we've won nothing. Like no cups, no regional, no second division titles, anything like that. I think it states here we're currently 27 years without a trophy. So it's a decent project to take on, and it's an interesting project to take on. Because I believe there's quite a lot of recent history. I think the club really elevated itself the last 20-25 years. I know that doesn't count the Bundesliga, but my inkling is if they've decided to build a brand new stadium or rebuild a stadium for a 41,000 seater stadium with a total capacity of 50,000, I believe they were on the up and then they came crashing back down. But all is not lost. Alex Ferguson's at the door. So what I will do now is run through the team, or the squad I should say. And currently this is where it sits. It's not the biggest squad, and the primary reason being we had really bad finances, and so I've gotten rid of quite a lot of players in the under-19s and the B team. But let's run through the first team. So Julian Krall is my keeper. Decent. As always, I tend to look at reflexes and aerial reach mainly for the lower leagues. I'm not too bothered about punching, kicking, communication. We just need somebody decent, and at £10,000 he's sort of mid-placed with regards to our wages. I think the highest earner is about 24 to 30,000, and there's only a couple of players on that. Everybody else sits around roughly between, let's say, an average of 5,000 and 15,000. Julius Semakula on loan from Bromby, only paying him 1.4k, and I don't think I paid... Yeah, we're not paying a monthly fee. And originally I signed him as my fourth choice centre-back, but he seemed to have found his way into my team, and he's doing really well. He's decent. Heading and tackling are great. Marking, not so great, but I think he makes up with it with his height, jumping reach and fitness. And if you look at his performances, average rating of 7.4 in 10 games. Fantastic. Ryan Dunleavy, we actually signed in the previous season, but stupid me wasn't paying too much attention because we had signed him from Coventry, so he was currently at Tottenham Hotspur. Coventry had him on loan. We signed him in Jan and he arrived right away. But the big issue was because he'd already played for Tottenham and Coventry, we couldn't play him because a player can't play for more than 2 teams in a single season. So effectively he was sitting on my bench, well not on my bench, he was sitting in the reserves for 6 months. Those of you might be familiar who have seen the videos, we had him at Dulwich. Decent player. I mean, I don't think I paid much for him. I got him on a free. So free transfer, 12,000 a week. Again, he was supposed to be one of my centre backs that I was going to play this year, but unfortunately he got injured. And if you look at I don't know if you could have a look at the medical report. So since signing him, I mean, he's been out for 5 weeks since the start of the season, and then they've been in and outs with him, and I don't think he's played that much. I think there we go. So he's injured for about 2 or 3 weeks, really. But Semakula sort of kicked him out of the team, really. Mirko Franci on loan from Italy. Again, he was actually my 5th choice centre back, and I signed him because he was just free, and he can play at left back, so he can cover a couple of places. And thinking about it, he's actually quite decent for what I've got. And he's completely free, and hopefully they don't recall him because I don't plan on playing him too much. And so he's a nice little signing to have to bulk up the team. Yelton, Chinese capped, but I think he was born in Brazil. Let me just double check that. Yep, he was born in Brazil, and I'm assuming then he went to a Chinese team in 2020 and then basically spent the best part of his career there, earning him a Chinese passport, and then he could play for the National League. He's quite old, but I'm prepared to take a punt on a couple of players who are old if they can do the job. And so far, he's alright. He hasn't been doing great. I like to have an expectation of my players to average a minimum rating of 7. He hasn't been great, but he hasn't been too bad. So hopefully, as the season progresses, he can really improve his performances. Dennis Favreau, he was already at the club before I signed. He's probably my best centre back. If you look at his 13 appearances, average rating of 7.10. 33 years old, and I know he's valued at 7.5 million, but I think that's because I've got his asking price set to 7.5, because a lot of players wanted him. He played decent last season, and he really helped me save the team and save us from being relegated. So I managed to get him tied down to a couple of years, and so he's one of our centre backs. I'm not going to go through the academy players. So Stashowiak is an academy player. Can't see him ever making it. Breyer, same. I only just brought them up because we had a cup game against Leipzig and I was trying to rest some of my first teamers. Kazim Okafor, on loan from Arsenal. Signed him as a cover. Not much to say about him really. Barely played, but I think when he hasn't actually done too bad. It's mainly substitutions. Yeah, so I think that's the only time he had a full 90, and he actually gave a rating of 7.5. So he's not too bad. Johannes Bauer, managed to sign him on the free from Bayern München. And naturally he's a right back, but because of another right back I had signed in the previous season, I decided to retrain him as a left back, and he's getting there. He's only just become competent at left back, so I'm really expecting him to kick on and make that left back position his. His average rating it's okay, but for his attributes and how good of a player he is, you do expect better. But as you can see, he had some really good games and then some really bad games. He's not. So I do think that's just because he wasn't familiar with the role and not because he isn't capable of playing there. So he's a really good player. Kevin Sessa, this is the right back that I managed to sign last Jan in my first season with Hanover. Great mental stats, great physical stats, and decent technical stats for right back. It was a choice of making him my left back or Bauer. Excuse me. But I ended up going with Bauer because Sessa's preferred foot is right only, and the other players is just right, so probably a lot easier to play at left back. Ramazan Algalarov, right winger, signed from, I can't remember now, Cadiz, second team. I think that's what the B stands for. Signed him for 20,000, and at first glance he doesn't look great, but when you look at the wing position he's playing, he can cross, he can dribble, he's quick, he can pass a bit, and isn't too bad technically. And at 20,000 pounds, 5,000 per week. So I really got a steal. And if you look at his average rating, again, averaging 7, 5 appearances, 8 subs bench, 2 goals, 1 assists. Very good player. I'm going to leave Noah Joel Saren's Bazzi out. Bazzi out. I'm just trying to get rid of him. He's eating out £10,000 per week, and he was already at the club when I arrived. Flora Muslija, he was also already at the club when I arrived, and he's a decent player, and he's currently playing in one of the deep line playmaking positions. So he can pass a bit, it has a bit more of an all-round attribute, technical level, and it sort of shows. In fact, if you look at his average rating, 7.5, can't go wrong. Maximilian Ferschel, Danish midfielder, which we signed on loan last season. I think is either yeah. So we got him on loan last season. 14 appearances, 6.68. Wasn't great, but I needed him to bulk out my team, and I brought him back as a sort of second or third choice centre mid, I should say. Decent passing stats, good first touch, but that's about it really. And this year he's been better, but he's not great. However, he is just a reserve, sort of a backup player essentially. Alexander Filipov, second backup player to my left wing. He can dribble, good first touch, decent agility, and he's quite tall, which I didn't realise. I suppose it doesn't matter too much when you're out on the wings, but as a backup I think he's really good. 8,500. I don't think I'm paying, I'm not paying any loan fee, so I'm not paying too much. And in the 5 games, 6 substitutions, 5 goals and assists with an average rating of 7.1, so not too bad. Nice. I love that personality. Should be my captain. Daniel Amabasha is a youth team player brought up. Can't see him having a future if I'm honest. And Florian Kruger, who was my star striker last year, and without his goals we would never have stayed up. 18 goals and 31 appearances. He absolutely smashed it, especially in that second half of the season. He hasn't really kicked on this year, which I'm a bit concerned about because I did give him a new contract. I think he's on 20,000. Oh, I extended his contract by a year. I think it was due to expire in 2029 and I triggered the extension. And it's a lot of money, even more so when he's not scoring. It isn't too bad because of one of the players that I haven't gone through yet, but hopefully he can find some form. Right, Celso Rocha. Best player in my team. I originally signed him on loan to play on the wing, and then I realised he's a much better striker. And the statistics say it. Average rating of 7.28, 7 goals, 3 assists in 13 appearances. And if you look at when he has played, he went on this run of just scoring non-stop, and whilst he hasn't scored in the last 3, I don't doubt he'll get back to his best. He is quite expensive. I am paying a total of I think 800,000 for his loan, but he's worth it if he finishes my top scorer and helps me get promoted. So that's the team, that's the squad, the first team. I'll now run through the tactics. So we play a 4-3-3, a couple of fullbacks on support to push up, Yelton as a deep lying playmaker on defend. I always like to have a defensive midfielder, and I like how he occupies that space and triggers a pass forward. Then you got your 2 central midfielders in front of him. Pascual, I don't think I went through Pascual. He is this player who signed on loan from Mallorca, first teamer, who I think he's good. Probably not a box to box midfielder, but I play him in that position and he does okay. Not sure if I'm paying. Yeah, he's quite expensive actually. I didn't realise. So I paid quite a lot for him. But certain players you have to break the bank for if you know what's coming in the future, and I do think we'll definitely get promoted. So back to the tactic. Originally I played with a cautious mentality, and that's because when I took over this team first, we were in the relegation zone, and what I didn't want to do, the big issue was to stop conceding goals first. We managed to do that, and then the wins started coming, and then I just haven't really changed the mentality because we're still winning. I mean, even with this mentality, we sit third in the Bundesliga too. So in possession, we try and keep the ball, try and play with a quick tempo, distribute to our centre backs, and have a high line. There's not much I can say about the formation. It's sort of like a half Genghis press, half tiki-taka, half Mourinho style defending, because we do defend in numbers, and I think that's because of the cautious mentality, and I think it has been working so far. It's worked so far. Right, on to the results. So I'll go through last season. So last season, when I took over, we were 17th in the league. Ended up finishing 10th after 34 games, 11 wins, 12 draws, which is probably where we screwed up quite a bit, and 11 losses. We scored 44 goals and conceded 43, so not much with goal difference, and we ended up with a points total of 45. What I will do is show you the season. So the first game I personally managed was this one against Darmstadt 98. Great start to the season, well, my season anyway, and I think they were last at that point. They might have even finished last. So as you can see, they were going through a terrible run before I arrived. And all in all, we managed to change it around. Had a rocky December, cup 3 losses, but then we went on a run up until late April, and by this time the season was effectively finished. We couldn't get relegated and we couldn't get promoted. I think after March we struggled to capitalise on any wins, but it was enough. It was enough to stay up, and that's what I wanted to do first. I would have hated to take a position and got relegated right away, because then it drags on then. So we stayed up, and currently this season, it's the 5th of November 2029. We have played 13 games and we sit third in the playoff spot, only 1 point off first position. This is where, if you think I'm sounding a bit sort of arrogant, and I really think we should be getting promoted with how we've started and how the team that I've got and what I know and how good my squad depth is. If I don't get promoted, it would be a failure, hands down. If you look at the form of the current season, we didn't get to off to the best start. We lost and drew, and then we just went on a really good run of 6 games. We then lost to the team who's top. Would have liked a minimum of a draw, not just so they can't push that point gap. We took the lead, but hey, Hamburger, I think they came down from Bundesliga. I don't think they were here last season. Yeah, they got relegated last year, so we were playing against a much bigger team with bigger resources. And the good thing is that we didn't let that form bother us. We won our next 5 Bundesliga games, Bundesliga 2 games, and we lost against Leipzig in the second round. I played the second team. There's no way we were going to win, and we actually took it quite far. They scored in the 87th minute. And if you look at the quality of players, it's valued at 16 mil. You know, there's no shame in losing to Leipzig. Well, there might be, but not for me, not right now. So that's where we are in the current season. Just gonna run back to the current league. Even we sit third. We're top of the form table, if that means anything. Scored 10 goals in our 13. No, sorry, scored 24 goals and conceded less. So we're scoring more than twice as much as conceding. It's always a good sign. Now I will run you through our finances. This is where things get a bit tricky. Now, the club doesn't really have great finances. Looking at the end of last season, or last year even, we were £9 million in debt. I don't know if it tells you. Yeah, so £9 million in debt. We finished 10th in the Bundesliga 2. And the prize money, I think, equated to about 10 million, which is why we got that push. And as you can see, it's just how the club's been running. We win our prize money, then by 12 months we lose it all because of how our finances are run, and it just sort of seesaws up and down, up and down. And I have no doubt that at the end of this season we'll also be in 9 million pounds in debt. The good thing, however, is if we do get promoted, I'm sure it'll be great for our resources. I know it's not exactly like the Premier League and other leagues, so I don't know the exact finances and the financial structure of the German Bundesliga if we get promoted. But for now even, we're just keeping our heads above the water, and it just seems to be how they've been working for the past few years. That generally probably doesn't sound too bad, knowing that I won't get fired if we're £9 million in debt come April 2030. But the problem with this is the board don't approve anything. We just don't have the funds to improve our training, youth, even look at an affiliate club. I've done it many times, expanding scouting range. I think the scout range would be a big thing for the club. Then I can go and send my scouts to South America. I can't speak. Send the scouts to South America, and then we can really pick up the Argentinian, Colombian, Brazilian wonderkins and bring them back. But you know, it's hard to do that when I can't scout. And I think if I do scout them, I think it costs 4,000. I'm just gonna pick a player who's at one of these clubs. Or 3,500, I think it costs. Yeah, from the scouting budget, and I just can't afford that. That's on one player. When you're scouting these teams, you want to be scouting in larger numbers. And so that's where we're at with the finances. I have tried to sort the wage budget out by getting rid of the second team. A lot of these guys are still there, but they can't go. There were a lot of players who have left. I don't know if it goes through the same with the under 19s. I got rid of as many players as I can. So if we go and look through the unwanted list, it's still quite big, but these guys can all leave on a free, and I'm not too bothered. I'm wondering if it tells you. See, a lot more players had left, but I think because they left on free transfers, so it just mentioned free here. I don't know not what why they are all here, but at least 30 to 40 people from the under 19s, the B team and the first team left last season. So we're doing okay. All in all, we're doing okay. Hopefully we get promoted this season and this sort of seesaw of the finances just stops, and I can really look to improve the team. Right, so that leaves us with the last bit of the video. So just to wrap up, 10 wins after 13 games, and I'm really looking to get promoted this season. If not, I'll be quite annoyed. All in all, I would really want you guys to try and jump back onto this series, and I know I haven't streamed. Like I said earlier on, I have my secondary monitor. There's been a bit of issue with it, and I'm awaiting my new one. But what I will try to do is record more update videos on YouTube at least. So if you want, in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitch at Yocto Gamer. That's YOCTOGAMER, and hopefully I'll be streaming in the next month or so. And if not, you can catch the summary videos on YouTube at Yocto Gaming. That's YOCTOGAMING. You'll probably see the channel. Like, subscribe, comment, do what you want. Well, not what you want, stay within the law. And yeah, it'd be really nice to have you guys along for the ride, and quite a lot of excitement for this. So I hope to see you next time.